Okay, I think we have started the live broadcast from our YouTube channel. Dear respected Professor Dr. Tuğrul Genç, you are welcome to our first initiative and first program for the International Karate Islamic Economics and Finance Talks. Hopefully, we are conducting our program together for the first time. After then, we'll make it for every week. We try to make a new program together with different participants, inshallah. Okay, I think you are now in the broadcast. Okay, we are proud to launch our International Karate Islamic Economics and Finance Talks, which is our next initiative organized by our Department of Islamic Economics and Finance of Karate University. I would like to welcome all participants who are here with us and also watching us online on YouTube channel. Before passing to the floor to our respected speaker, let me provide a brief information about our university and about our department. Our university has been reopened as a Waqf university in 2009 by Konya Chamber of Commerce. Konya Chamber of Commerce is a very important chamber in Konya because it has been established in 1882, one of the biggest chamber, and it has been nearly 25,000 members. That's bring and gain a broad experience for our university and chamber because more than 2 centuries that our chamber is dealing with the industry and dealing with the real sector. And this ancient experience, I think, Konya Chamber of Commerce determines the real needs of the industry, real needs of the real sector. As an implication of this experience, in 2016, our chamber has been established to open an undergraduate program, namely Islamic Economics and Finance undergraduate program. And this is the first time in Turkey we have opened an undergraduate program. So we are pioneering this area in the undergraduate level because the needs of real sector, what is Islamic finance and how can we find some solutions about the real problems and the world crisis. So we are trying to establish a good education. Also, we are making good international national programs because we are gaining a broad experience from our roots of the university. Also, I want to mention something about university because our university is reopened in 2009. Why I'm emphasizing that we are opened in 2009? Because our roots are going to back 1251 in Karatay Medrese. The name of our university comes from the Karatay Medrese, and we also, as a university and education institution, we have gained a good experience, and so we have some opportunities to solve some problems. As our department in Economics and Finance, we have organized several national or international programs, such as I want to give some examples, but not all of them. I just give some programs because we are all waiting our respected speaker, I know. But I have to say, for example, we have started Madrasa Talk program in Konya. We are making it offline, but also we are making a live broadcast from our YouTube channels. We are bringing respected guests in Konya, and we are taking Madrasa Talk in an historical and ancient places. Also, we are making, we have an international conference, namely CARCF. We are making Karate International Conference on Islamic Economics and Finance. Also, we have a journal, Karate Journal of Islamic Economics and Finance. In regards of, we are going together with our conferences. On the other hand, we have signed several agreements with international universities worldwide to conduct student and staff exchanges, as well as collaborative research projects, because university is very important for this collaborative research project, not just educational collaboratives. We are making culture and language, all manners of collaborative programs together. As one of the most outstanding outcome of these collaborations, I am pleased to share with you that this year, inshallah, hopefully this year, we are organizing a good initiative with 5 universities besides Karate. We are organizing International Islamic Finance Olympiads. Inshallah, this is the first time in Islamic Economics and Finance area. We will make it on 17th of July 2023 in Indonesia, inshallah. We are organizing and we are making all the meetings. Hopefully, we will conduct these events and Olympiads in the name of Islamic Finance Olympiad this year. Another milestone pioneered by our department is Student Mobility Program, because last year we have prepared an MOE and MOA and agreements between Universities Muhammadiyah and Yogyakarta. Last semester, we have taken 10 inbound students from Indonesia to our department, and this semester we have sent outbound 6 students to Indonesia. So these exchange programs enhance our capacity, enhance our culture, enhance our educational level. So we are proud of giving information about these issues. We have many other programs, but we are still waiting, and our respected guest is waiting for his speech. So I will give the floor to Professor Trollay Genç. But before, I want to give a little information about our speaker. Professor Dr. Trollay Genç is a former deputy governor of the Central Bank of Republic of Turkey and currently serving as professor in INSEAD. Professor Trollay has gained a work and consultancy experience from a range of countries and institutions, including US FAD, UK OM FIF, and Canadian think tanks, the Center of International Governance Innovation, and the Kazakhstan National Bank. He worked at several UK universities, including the University of Cambridge, Birkbeck College London, the University of Durham, Imperial College London, at different capacities. Before joining the Central Bank of Republic of Turkey as a board member in 2009, he was a professor of finance at the Bradford University School of Management. He also served as the chair of the Bank of International Settlements Irving Fisher Committee on Central Bank Statistics and editor-in-chief of the Central Banking Review Journal. Professor Trollay received his PhD in economics from the University of York from the United Kingdom. Today, Professor Trollay will give a speech on a very important and very interesting topic entitled Promises and Challenges of Digital Finance. We are waiting for this because technology and finance technology is growing up, and one of the very important respected speaker here. Professor, the floor is yours. I think it's time to start listening. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Seime, for this kind invitation in the first place, and congratulations that you have been doing really interesting activities there in Konya. Perhaps I should mention that I spent 6 years in Konya, so I have some sort of attachment with the Konya. Okay, so now let me say something about digital finance. So now we all have used digital finance this way and that way, right? It's our part of life. But before that, let me try to convince you that finance is very important. Okay, I'm going to tell you a very historical case to highlight the importance of finance. One can give you many examples like that. In Italy, during Renaissance time, they really made significant advances in science, and they have big ideas. So putting those big ideas and the scientific advances basically requires investment, but investment requires financing, right? But it wasn't easy in Italy during that time to find finance. In Christianity, they also believed during that time taking and charging interest is a sinful thing. You are not supposed to do that. And it's something dirty things to do that. So what they did, they called the Jewish bankers to Italy, and they basically forced those Jewish bankers to leave what they called the ghettos. So that's the Italian word coming from there. And then those Jewish bankers basically were sitting on benches. Later on, those benches became banks, and they provided basically finance to investment based on scientific advances and big ideas of Italy during that time. So that is really very good historical example to highlight the importance of finance. Now we are in the age of digital finance, right? So in the age of digital finance, whether the rest of us can do this or not, whether we should still relying on Jewish bankers or not. So that's basically the problem, right? This is something I'm going to talk about. In 2018, 2019, I spent some time in China, and I was going backward between England and China. So it was really easy for me to understand the differences and advances in these two different countries. In China, they were well ahead of digital finance than England. It was very surprising, right, to me. How come China is well ahead of England when it comes to digital finance? So let me tell you some of the advances that I come across there. Even in especially small street vendors were using something what we call is QR payment scheme. So they were basically hanging a piece of paper, and with that piece of paper, you pull out your phone and then insert the amount that you are supposed to pay to the street vendor, you know, for whatever the purchase you have done. And then you show the amount to the vendor, the seller, if that is correct, he or she says yes, and then that basically concludes the transaction, right? That was so easy. But I went back to England and then took taxi from the train station to Cambridge University. The guy was only able to accept cash, nothing else. He didn't have anything. It was really striking that how come China is well ahead of England in this regard. I think this is the case in many respects, that China and the other Asian countries well ahead of the rest of the world when it comes to digital finance. So this basically highlights that as long as you understand the requirements of digital finance, the technology, and what it requires, so you don't need to rely on others to provide financial services to you. So it's up to you to provide your financial services. In China, they had this QR payment system. They used their own WhatsApp called WeChat. It was so easy there. There are many things that use digital platforms for your payments. They had kind of Uber system. They had various other things, basically. Such things did not exist, at least during those days in England in 2018, 2019. I think still in 2023, England should be much China should be much ahead of England in many respects in this regard. Okay, this is basically digital finance provides great opportunities to nations, to individuals, to free themselves from others, from third parties, from central authorities. So it is a brand new world, right? This sort of financial services that I have been talking about, QR payment or calling taxis and making payments sort of things, these are basically based on basic, what we call is basic applications, right? Not really sophisticated applications. So these are basically digital platform application enables you to make financial services possible, right? So what such financial services offer to us that we should use that? Well, it's a very convenient, right? If you don't have money, if you don't like to carry cash, you could use your phone to make the payment. So it's very convenient, and you don't need to go to physically to shops to buy things. At home, you can buy things. So it's the first thing is convenience. Second thing is, it's a lower cost. Imagine that a small seller in China, the vendors in China, they don't need to buy what we call is POS machine. It's called point of sales machine. If you go to most shops, you find them when you are using your credit card. So they don't need to own that. Without that, just a piece of paper is sufficient to receive payment and to make payment, right? So that really lowers their cost. So convenience, cost, and the speed, right? It's so fast to make that sort of payments, and it's very transparent. You can see, or others can see, what payment you made. So this is basically excellent. So far, so good. But there is a challenge for this sort of system. For small businesses, small vendors, street sellers, this is excellent. But when it comes to different type of businesses like bakery, so that's what you see, for example, in Kuala Lumpur. If you go to a bakery, a very busy bakery, they don't accept QR payment. They don't accept because it's not as fast as using contactless payment, Visa or other payments. So it's a challenge for digital finance, okay, to bypass this and to take over from Visa or others. I'm going to mention, compare Visa cryptocurrency later on. You will see that the digital finance long way to go to really challenge the payment system like Visa or MasterCard. Okay, so that is basically something related to these digital platform and application-based digital financial services. I mentioned China, but other Asian countries are not different than China. Even some of them are well ahead of China. Take, for example, Hong Kong. Take, for example, especially Singapore. They are well ahead of China in terms of digital financialization. Same applies to South Korea. They are also well ahead of China. There are certain things that China has done, the others hasn't done so. I will come to that point. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that this is a point for Asian countries to leapfrog Western economies by adopting digital finance. So they basically done so far. So that is it has really significant consequences for international financial and economic system. But from this, obviously, there is a challenge for all nations, not for China, not for South Korea, not for Turkey, for England. The challenge is that basically digital financial services or digitalization is going to eat up our jobs, right? So we have to find a way of addressing this substitution of labor with digital services. So this is going to be a big challenge in the coming years. Well, so far, the convenience and the lower cost, basically the promises or the main feature of digital finance that I mentioned. Let me take you to another level of digital finance, which is something related to big data. Okay, so on the internet, on social media, we generate so many a large amount of big data. So now we have what we call is artificial intelligence, AI, to make use of those big data and to come up financial rules, financial decisions for us. So this is a brand new game. This is a really game changer development in this regard. Artificial intelligence is using big data and making decisions for us. Okay, that is really important. So here, artificial intelligence often misused or confused with machine learning and deep learning. So when you say artificial intelligence, you mean what we mean machine learning and deep learning, right? Okay, so this new technology using AI on big data lowers the cost, but more importantly, it improves our financial decisions, right? So the first case, it was only lower cost, but this case is both lower cost and improved financial decisions. So that is really important. And in the area of investment decisions, in the area of credit card scores, there are many areas that we use artificial intelligence to make improved financial decisions, to better financial decisions. Okay. So that is, as I said, it is related to machine learning and deep learning. Okay, so then I need to explain you how come machine learning improves financial decisions for us. Okay, so there is a classical example to explain the importance of machine learning, or in general artificial intelligence. So fermentation is an important, for example, process. We use fermentation in many areas, making pickles and making similar things. Okay. So when you apply machine learning to fermentation processes, you tend to improve efficiency 16%. Okay. Now, scientists try to explain where does this 16% improvement comes from. Okay. Apparently, they can explain 6 to 8% of that percentage point of improvement, but the remaining 8 to 10%, it's not easy to explain. Basically, to explain the first part, you may need really powerful machines and sort of things. So it says that, okay, if you use powerful machine, you can improve fermentation process. But there's a part that we cannot explain. 10 to 8%, basically, we cannot explain. It's beyond our theoretical understanding, beyond our analytical understanding of fermentation process. So that is it's a good highlight of the importance of artificial intelligence and the contribution of that to better financial decisions. Okay, so far so good, but there is an issue here. We generate big data, right, on the internet, on social media, and we let make decisions. We let artificial intelligence to make decisions on behalf of us. But when you do that, you are not going to produce big data anymore, right? Soon, some decades later, those artificial intelligence methods will not have any big data to use it, right? Because we are not going to make any decisions. We will just rely on those machine learning and deep learning to make decisions. and we are not making any decision, producing any more data. So it is going to be a big challenge in the coming years. What we are going to do when we stop making financial decisions and rely on machine learning and deep learning, in short, artificial intelligence. So we may lose big data, and those processes will not be able to, make decisions for us. Okay. Now, the next thing that I like to explain, another game changers, is cryptocurrency and digital money. Really, this was something big issue, right? Many investors, many enthusiasts grabbed the idea and invested money and followed the developments in cryptocurrency, and many scientists, many researchers worked in that area, and really big development have taken place along that area. So we have so many cryptocurrencies, we have digital money, and we have also central bank digital monies, right? So what cryptocurrency really promised to us? Basically eliminating banks, eliminating third parties, eliminating central authorities. It's just peer-to-peer payment. So when I need to make payment to Hussein Bey, I am just going to use the cryptocurrency system. I don't need to use a bank. Okay, I don't need to use an intermediation there. I don't need to use the central authority sort of thing. It's a brand new world. It's a big game changer. It's a peer-to-peer, no central party. Excellent. It's again supposed to be cheaper, supposed to be faster, and very secure payments, right? So that's why many investors have been using cryptocurrency for making payments. But we have a serious problem when it comes to that, right? Well, cryptocurrency systems have to be a peer-to-peer system, not relying on central authority, and they have to be secure system. Then they have a problem to make it scalable, to make it really making large amount of transaction really is not easy, at least at this time, given the technology, given the advances, it's not easy. Okay, it may change in the future, but right now it's not easy. So, for example, this is the let me tell you the difference between the cryptocurrency systems and our traditional system. In our traditional system, payment is done through Visa and a MasterCard system. A Visa does something around 65,000 transactions per second. It's a huge number, right? What about Bitcoin? 7-10 transactions per second. You cannot replace a Visa or MasterCard with Bitcoin and others. Okay, is it cheaper? Not really, it's that cheaper. You have to pay some amount of money. So because of these reasons, cryptocurrency really collapsed, right? To a large extent. They promised a lot, but they didn't fulfill their promises. So it's supposed to be cheaper, supposed to be peer-to-peer. Yes, they achieved it, but it wasn't scalable given their the nature of the technology, right? But obviously, they can change their system and make it more efficient, and improve their technology, and they may, challenge Visa and other payment system. the reason why a cryptocurrency system does not work, it relies on verification by others. In a way, they claim that they are going to remove third-party central authority for the transaction between two persons, but it is not easy really to remove a third party. You need another party to verify a financial transaction. So cryptocurrencies rely on third parties. Those third parties are called miners. So they use miners mostly based in China, and they verify our transaction. It's a very costly process. The electricity consumption of this process equal to the electricity consumption of Netherlands, for example. So the environmental consequences of cryptocurrency are really huge. Okay. So the next thing is, of course, is the technology they have is the blockchain technology, what we call it. And in fact, the general title of that technology is distributed ledger technology. So this distributed ledger technology right now, it's cumbersome. So we need to improve that distributed ledger technology to make a cryptocurrency system working more efficiently and in a scalable way. But right now, it's not really it's happening. And what they need is that a new technology along that line is going to improve the efficiency, improve and lower the cost. Okay, so but there are other type of cryptocurrencies, what we call them stable coins. So those stable coins are different than cryptocurrencies. The cryptocurrencies have no backing, no guarantee. You have to rely on the fact that it will keep its value in the future. But it may not happen. Well, it was the case recently. The value of cryptocurrencies basically drastically dropped. But stable coins are different. Stable coins are basically backed by fiat currency. For example, if you are issuing a stable coin in the US, you say that one stable coin is equal to $1 US. So the good thing is that you basically tokenize US dollar and make it easy to make your payments easy using stable coin. It provides you a greater flexibility when you are making payments stablecoin. So I'm making a point about stable coins. It's going to be basically the race between stable coins and central bank digital currencies in the coming years. There are countries like Singapore. These are financial centers. They are really not in the mood of introducing central bank digital currencies, but they like to rely on stable coins. Probably that's the case with the US, but the rest and a few other countries like financial centers, but other countries have been very busy with central bank digital currencies, CBDC. Before going through the CBDC, I like to make a distinction between two different types of central bank CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. One is called retail CBDC. So these ones basically used by ordinary citizens in ordinary purchases. Another one is called wholesale CBDC. They are used basically in the banking system, in the money market system, in cross-border payments, sort of things. So what is going to be the race between stable coins and retail CBDC will take place in the coming years, rather than the wholesale CBDC. It is very much likely that central banks will improve their wholesale CBDC, and they will try to make use of that in cross-border payments. So let me say something more about retail CBDC. So why some countries are going to resist on that, but some countries are going to use that. So right now, there are a couple of countries who are using, who have already introduced retail CBDC. Bahamas is one of them, and Nigeria is another country. There are a few other ones. They used pilot systems. They are having problems, in the implementation of retail CBDC. For example, Bahamas having the following problem. So if you let your citizens to use CBDC, retail CBDC, it's basically killing your banking system. So you have to strike a balance. Okay, you may say that, okay, I'm going to have another system, so I don't mind that if banking system disappears, you can do so. But if you want to keep your banking system, you have to do something to differentiate between your banking system and retail CBDC. So what Bahamas has come up, well, they basically put a floor on the maximum amount of CBDC, retail CBDC can be used by ordinary citizens. Otherwise, you're going to kill your banking system. I think there are similar problems in Nigeria. I heard that, but I don't know much detail, I must say that. But it is not easy. Well, in any country, the retail CBDC implementation is still at baby stage. It's not a full-fledged implementation yet. Okay. That is the retail CBDC. Let me move on to the wholesale CBDC. Well, in the money market, central bank operations and the banking operations usually digitalized. So perhaps one may argue that you don't need wholesale CBDC. It's already digital, right? But there is one important point. When you tokenize wholesale CBDC, it's going to be very beneficial for banks, for central banks, or other financial institutions, because you will be able to your positions, your digital positions, as a collateral. So it's going to be a big plus if central banks, make their digital interbank payments and positions wholesale or tokenized CBDC. Okay, and another point about wholesale CBDC, it can be used in international payments, in the cross-border financial flows. So that would really reduce the cost of financial flows. And you may not need to use US dollar, you may not need to use reserve currencies in those cases. So it's a big opportunity for countries to use wholesale CBDC in cross-border financial flows. So basically, that would reduce the significance of the use of dollar in in the payment systems, right? But you know, whether it is going to, you know, dismantle the power of US dollar, it's another matter. When it comes to that, I have other views. Okay, so these are the two different CBDCs that we need to take into account when we are trying to understand what we are going with central bank CBDC. Okay, now, so what about the Islamic countries, how they can leverage digital finance? I think there are many Islamic countries already leveraging the benefit of digital finance in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in Turkey, and in Nigeria. As I mentioned, they have already implementing the central bank digital currency. So, you know, it basically provides a big opportunity to them to basically remove intermediaries. Okay, so what specifically that would be useful for Islamic countries? Let me say something about that. Basically, I see 3 points important for Islamic countries. Financial inclusion is a big problem in Islamic countries, right? OIC, let's call them OIC countries. So, so digital finance is going to improve financial inclusion. So that's going to be a big plus. There's a big connection between financial inclusion and financial development and prosperity, economic growth and development. So any you know, development along this area, increasing financial inclusion would be a big plus for Islamic countries. Okay? And you know, digital finance basically enable you to improve your financial inclusion. That's good. Second thing that Islamic countries would do, okay, it's not going to be easy, but they can do that. So using the retail central bank digital currency, they may convert their bank-based system to fund-based system. Well, I assume that it would be desirable for many Islamic countries, many OIC countries. You know, as I mentioned earlier on, in Bahamas, if they let citizens to buy as much as retail digital central bank digital currency they like, it would basically kill banking system. So that could happen in Islamic countries. Then obviously you need to replace it with something. That something would be fund-based system, right? Based on something investment accounts, and more than that, equity-based instruments. So, obviously, there is an important distinction there, moving from fixed maturity financial system to infinite maturity financial system is going to be important. So that is basically moving from that based financial system or banking based financial system to a fund-based financial system. So I think most experts in this area would tell you that this would be one of the area that the OIC countries would improve on that. Okay, digitalization basically enable Islamic countries move their system from banking to fund-based system. Okay. And then the third area, as I mentioned earlier on, basically related to cross-border flows. Well, it's not easy to make payment between Islamic countries, right? Thanks to developments in the area of remittance payments and international payment system, it improved a lot. But still, when it comes to large-scale payments, we still rely on SWIFT system, international system, and the Western system, right? So this is an area that Islamic country, OIC countries come up. A wholesale central bank digital currency basically enables a cheaper and efficient international financial flows. So that will be really significant development for the Islamic countries. I think, you know, for a start, I have these points to make, but I'm sure listener would have their questions, but I would be very happy to answer those questions. So therefore, I like to stop here and then wait for questions.
Okay, Professor Trolla, it's very nice, interesting, and very humble speech. Thank you very much for this speech. We got some questions from, I think, our participants, but before giving to the floor to our participants' questions, I want to make a little bit summarize, and I want to ask a question from my side. Firstly, you have been talking about QR payments from China and European countries, and it was very interesting because we got to take something from our historical basis. After that, we got some artificial intelligence and the new developments from, for example, we can say Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3, and semantic internet positions. It's very important, I think. The third one is cryptocurrencies, and cryptocurrencies. I think for about 1 or 2 years, it's decreasing. But after the crisis, subprime crisis from 2008, people want to take in a Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies more than that. And there was, I think, a small problem for these issues because, as you mentioned, it was very slow and still slow, and they are taking all enhancing this problem. After the blockchain issues, I think smart contracts and blockchains are very important issues for generating financial issues. And the last one about Islamic countries, and it's really interesting because you have mentioned that financial inclusion, we can increase financial inclusion issues on digital finance and using retail CBDCs for funds instead of lawmaking, because Islamic finance still wants a solution about it, I think, because in conventional model from getting its roots from industrial revolutions, after then bank system all over the world is very strong, and Islamic economy is bringing a more transfer risk between the vendors. For example, in the conventional system, we are transferring the risk, but in Islamic model, we are sharing the risk together, and this is an opportunity, I think. And the other thing, SWIFT operations and cross-border operations, it's really interesting. I just want to ask from this point about the blockchain and smart contract issues, because in Islamic finance, I think there is a challenge about making some contracts and more suitable and more reliable. For example, you have got Iran, Afghanistan, Sudan, and other countries, there are problems with this, other problems. If we enhance this blockchain model, smart contracts, can we make the bigger solutions for Islamic countries, especially for the Islamic finance? I want to take a little view of yourself about this issue, about smart contracts.
Yeah, I think smart contracts way forward. A long time ago, I met an academic, a PhD student who was working on writing the codes to build robots. He was telling me that it is impossible to really make a perfect or a useful robot But he was wrong, right? 20 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, that's what he argued. But right now, it's possible that you make really very functional robots doing interesting jobs, right? But it wasn't that easy 30 years ago, or many academics didn't see that. So this is something. Something applies to smart contracts. Right now, smart contracts really not sufficient to produce cost-efficient system yet. But you cannot say that it's going to be the same in 10, 20, 30 years later. It's all about writing contracts, right? Which is not easy in real time, in real life. You know how it's difficult writing a contract. You hire lawyers and you still find a certain aspect is missing in contract. So to foresee all eventualities and putting that into contract, it's not that easy. But over time, probably with the help of smart people, we'll be able to write smart contracts. Okay, that's what I believe. But for the time being, it's some way to go to find the smart contracts. Well, these days we have generative AI, so we can rely on them to write those bulky codes for us. So it is going to be feasible to write really functional, smart contracts and make many things possible. But I mean, again, I like to highlight the fact that you are using the current you're writing your smart contracts based on the current big data that we generated. So once you stop, once you rely on your big data, then it is going to be a big problem. And who is going to write it? So let me come to the Islamic countries. I think probably you don't need to rely on smart contract when it comes to cross-border financial flows, right? Cross-border payments. Even a simple system would be sufficient to solve many inefficiencies that right now we have it, right? It's a US-based system and SWIFT-based system. Whenever they say that you are not going to access to the system, then you have to find very inefficient ways. So a digital system right now we have is going to probably to change that and many countries would be able to, make financial flows easy and cheaper and efficient at cross-border flows. But I think it's not that straightforward. There are many countries working on that. As far as I know, they haven't really solved. They are trying to obviously working on the different alternatives. I think they haven't agreed any alternative yet. But it is a big possibility. It's going to happen. But we have to work on that. Okay, that is cross-border, but within a nation, within a country, okay, you need smart contracts, but okay, that is the problem that other countries face.
I think we can say we have opportunities from here, and we have to develop something. From the other things, we have questions from our YouTube channel. If you like, I would like to ask this question. Dr. Kamola Bayram, thank you very much for her. She has some questions from that. The first question is start for the, what are your suggestions for the students, for the international or national students? What type of extra skills they need to acquire to still be in demand? regarding
Yeah. I think, thank you very much. This is this is the question I asked myself, and probably the first person in Turkey, maybe in the world, or among the first person, I should say, that I designed a course on digital finance, MBA type of course, master course, and I ran this course for 2 years. Well, it's not easy to run, I must say, because it has several dimensions. First dimension is that you need to know the domain language, subject, which is finance, right? And then secondly, you need to know the technology used in digital finance. And thirdly, you should be able to write programs. And finding students who are good at all three of them is really difficult. So what I therefore suggest is that just concentrate on one of them, right? Either you are good at, you just learn the domain subject, finance, and a little bit technology, and some programming skills, data science skills, basically, and something like that. So there's a challenge, I must say, that, to make straightforward suggestions in this area, because I experienced, it's difficult because, those three subjects are completely different subjects, right? In finance, in economics, they are related to each other, okay? Microeconomics, development, finance, they are somehow related. You could recycle certain things, but in programming, in financial technology, and in finance, there aren't really any overlap at all.
We have way forward, I think. We have to do lots of things. The second question from Dr. Kamala is, as a central banker, what is your view on future of central banks in case there is a global acceptance and hence shift to the adoption of cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, I don't think, central banks would let cryptocurrency dominate their system, right? The most we would get, the one that I tried to describe, the case of Singapore. Okay, it's a very, highlighted case. So Singapore is a financial center, right? And they don't want to rely on central bank digital currency. They don't want to rely on cryptocurrency, but what they want to rely on is stable coin. So it's a kind of cryptocurrency, but it is backed by fiat money. So I think the likely one would be that one. Okay, but having said that, stable coins are having their own problems too. If they don't have really, if their fiat currencies that they back is not regulated, it's going to be like a banking system. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that you need to provide deposit insurance to stable coins too. If you are going to have a stable financial system. So I think going forward, I don't think central banks will let cryptocurrency dominate their system. So they will regulate at some point. Okay? So one of the reasons why central bank really talking about and working on retail CBDCs, basically to fight with the cryptocurrencies. So they want to, take their place back from cryptocurrencies. And also, in the West, in many countries, there is of course hype about digital finance, like all new things. Okay, so we have so many hypes, and there is also deliberate policy along this line that digital currency or digitalization basically leads to innovation. So you want to basically let that happen, right? Rather than killing it at an early stage, you just close your eyes and watch what's going to happen. Okay, the downfall is going to be costly, but the innovation that it's going to generate is going to be much higher.
Okay, so we have to follow up what's going on regarding this. And then the last question, what are the possible scenarios for USD's position as the international reserve currency, given that nations will use cryptos for the international transactions? I think it's a very interesting question, because while we are talking the reserve money, USD, all around the world, within the cryptocurrencies and the CBDS of the other currencies, we are taking the throne of USD a little bit damaged. What do you think, Professor, about this issue?
Okay, that's a very good question. Well, we need to understand there are three functions that USD has. The first function is it's a reserve currency, right? Most central banks, most large corporations have reserves in USD. Okay, so that would change. We could use other currencies, we could use cryptocurrency, we could use central bank digital currency. The other one is US dollar is what we call as invoice currency, right? When you are buying, for example, oil, the price is basically set in US dollar, right? So, and then you make your payment in US dollar. So that's why it is called invoice currency. Okay, this is not that important either. And then, but the third one is very important. What we call is a US dollar is funding currency. So whenever you need funding, you rely on USD. It's the case for not only developing countries, not only Islamic countries, but also developed countries like Australia, like New Zealand, and even European countries, European banks, and British banks. So that is an important function that USD plays. Whether we are going to come up a new system or not, that's another matter. The new system would be simply peer-to-peer lending, okay? So then you don't need any system to rely on. But if you set up such a peer-to-peer system, meaning that I can lend money to somebody in the US or vice versa, somebody investor in the US basically invest in Turkey or in another country. Whether to make such a system easy or not, that's a big question, right? It's not going to happen. Okay, for small transaction, it's easy to set up a peer-to-peer system. You don't lose much. But for large amounts, I think, you cannot really rely on any digital system. So you need still human decisions, human handling of that part of it. And I always give the following example. In Europe, in the United Kingdom, they basically catch prawns, okay? But it is really expensive to get them cleaned and then to get them prepared for cooking. So what they do, they send all their prawns to Asia, to this part of the world, to China, basically. So it's cheaper there to clean them and to make them ready for cooking, okay? But same thing can be said about finance. So all Asian countries basically save money, okay? And then they send their money to the US. And then the US basically process it, make it funding to Asian households, and more important, the Asian corporations. There are many Asian companies basically funded in the US stock market, and same applies to vice versa. Because this part of the world basically does most of the saving of the world, right? So you know that we need to understand those aspects when we talk about whether the USD system will collapse or will disappear or not. Okay, well, global financial crisis 2008-2009 took place in the US, but what happened? The size of European banks basically shrinked, and now US banks basically dominate the world, maybe outside the Asian markets.
And it's not easy to say, and a collapse of the USD system, I think. Okay, thank you very much, Professor Trolla. It was very nice and very informative program today, and the first opening program of International Karate Islamic Economics and Finance Talks starts with a very strong program. Thank you very much. Before getting to close, would you like to say something to our students, something to our university in Konya and Turkey? As a last verse, I want to give you the floor again. After that, we're gonna make a close together.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned earlier on, I spent 6 years in Konya. Really, I did my secondary and high school education there. I have really good memories of Konya, and I have many friends from that part of the world, and I really like the city, and there are really good things about the city. And then I think it's one of the probably best place to be a student in a city like Konya. I think you know it's a really well developed place. You know, during my time in Konya, when I come to Konya, I really like the traffic system there. There are really big positives about Konya, so I think you should take advantage of that, and you should attract international students, and you should internationalize your program, your university. Along those lines, you are doing well, as far as I can, you know, as far as what you explained earlier on. So I think maybe in any field, what I like to convey to your students, the hard work, nothing beats hard work, right? Unfortunately, there is no shortcut. You have to work really hard and learn things. And I only studied in Konya, right? You know, I'm not a graduate of science lycée, and because of certain things, I basically had my first degree in Gazi University, now Hacı Bayram Veli University. But, you know, as long as you work hard, all doors will open for you. So nothing really beats hard work. So that's my suggestion to your students.
And it's really important. I think our students will take notes, because there is no shortcuts and they have to work hard. Thank you very much, Professor. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. As I mentioned before on the opening of our program, it was our first digital talks program for Islamic Economics and Finance Department, and it was very humble and very interesting shared data from Professor Trolla Kenç. Hopefully, we will go on these programs on our YouTube channels, and I want to say, in the first week of April, 15 days after, 2 weeks after, we'll make a second program regarding IOF standard of WACs from this place. Thank you very much, Professor, for being us.
It's my pleasure. Well, thank you again for your kind invitation, and all the best.
Thank you very much. All the best. And I would like to thank our participants to watch us from our YouTube channel. Hopefully, we'll make our programs bigger and international cooperations. Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much for your participants. Have a nice
Thank
day.
you.
Have a
Have a
nice
nice
day. Thank you very much.